This little girl awoke in a heavy downpour, taken aback by the sights around her, and after calming down, she remembered that she was an orphan being transferred away when the caravan was attacked by robbers. All had died, and she was the only one still living. However, it was crucial to point out that she had actually been a boy. This girl was once a 30-year-old man who was struck by a car, died, and then came back to life in this girl's body. She pondered whether this was the isekai that people had formerly gossiped about, as she was living in a girl's body yet still had memories of her prior life. Set everything aside. Ren needed to focus on how to survive in this circumstance first. Her temperature had dropped below 30 degrees due to the severe rain, therefore, she urgently needed to take action. Unsure of what to do, Ren had a train of thoughts from her old master's body flood through her head at this very time, informing her that magic existed in this world and that anyone born into it was capable of using it. This tiny girl could use life magic to dry clothes or make a small fire, and Ren swiftly split the branches and folded them into a modest tent, then dried the logs and started a fire, drawing on her past survival experiences. The initial thing to do was to keep the garments from getting wet because damp clothes cause the human body temperature to drop quickly. It was incredibly difficult to produce fire in this pouring downpour, but Ren's magic was so powerful that he could easily do so. Now that things had greatly improved, Ren sat by the cozy fire and slowly fell asleep. In her dream, Ren saw the body of her previous owner. She was an orphan who had been bought from an orphanage by an elderly merchant to be used as a sex slave for him. Because of this revolting background, Ren never allowed it to happen again, and she had to flee. Ren could still survive 5 days later. Thanks to her item evaluation talents, Ren could see things that could be eaten. Nevertheless, eating hay like this meant she was going to succumb to it, and her thirsty throat required water. Just as she called for water, a large drop of water dropped on her face, startling her. However, this was insufficient, so Ren yelled even louder, and water really began to rain from the sky. After being satisfied, Ren started to wonder where the water came from. She then attempted to plead for a rice ball, and it actually fell into her hand immediately, making her brighten her eyes. After a satisfying dinner, Ren dozed off on the ground, but she soon leapt up, feeling a little perplexed by what she had just done. Ren reasoned that if it was like the isekai she had seen before, there may be something called a status table. Hence, Ren began to concentrate her thoughts, and certainly, it appeared. Ren read the information on the status board carefully. The first thing that puzzled her was the race, as she belonged to the upper realm people, and there was also tectonic magic. Hearing the name, she understood it was powerful and thought it was the source of rice balls and water. Ren seemed to be exceptionally special in this world. After the accident, Ren concentrated on staying alive in the forest for a week. She tried to use her previous life's knowledge of how to catch fish, but her frail body made it impossible for her to do so. By this time, Ren had come to terms with the fact that using a fishing rod was better than using her hands to catch fish. Ren did as she thought, picking up some materials and using constructive magic, which was her new sort of magic that could make anything in the world but at a high cost of mana. However, Ren's mana was a little low, so it couldn't be used continually. However, there was one option to conserve more mana, which was to gather the essential item and then use magic to make it. Ren thus succeeded in creating a fishing net. Now that the food was no longer an issue, the question was how to cook it. Ren was in need of chopsticks, a saucepan, and a stove, so she constructed them successfully and was also equipped with storage talent, which allowed her to transport them without using any mana. When everything was prepared, Ren placed all the fish she had collected into the pot along with some previously obtained seasonings and used her magic to stir-fry everything. Ren developed a modern grilled fish dish as a consequence. Grabbing the chopsticks to savor the fruits of her labor, Ren constantly shook because it tasted so nice, and Ren could tell what she needed to do to her advantage thanks to the memories of her previous life. After a healthy meal, Ren's mana was greatly restored. She then used magic to make a stack of energy drinks and stuffed them all into the storage area, believing that with this much drink, she would be able to escape the forest. However, Ren had the thought that if she got out of here, where would she go, or would she have to return to live with that merchant? Ren didn't want to go back there or to the orphanage, so she had to survive on her own. She didn't want to leave this forest and chose to stay here. Ren then used all of her talents to sprint around the woodland, collecting the essential items and putting them all into the storage place. After 2 months of packing, Ren drank the energy drinks she had made in advance, arranged the materials in front of her, and used magic to make them. As a result, Ren's first house was successfully constructed. Ren happily entered the house and jumped into the bathtub to relax. In her previous life as well as this one, Ren preferred to avoid social interaction, and if anyone tried to bother her, she would leave the area right away. However, Ren first needed to enjoy her new life because it would be much more interesting given her magic. Ren stumbled back to her bedroom after having a shower and flopped on the bed, thinking about what she should do the next day. 3 months after constructing her house, Ren had a garden in her front yard. With her creative skill, planting seeds was too easy for Ren, and since it only involved seeds, the amount of mana used wouldn't be too much. After taking care of the garden, Ren went inside, spent a little mana to make cute new clothing, and then savored the rewards of her toil. In her past existence, Ren had never dared to imagine a life of self-sufficiency and health. Ren, on the other hand, wanted to eat meat in order to feel better. In her prior life, she used to heal herself from job troubles by eating meat, so ignoring basic requirements was impossible. Ren wanted to go hunting, but her only weapon was a magic dagger that she could not bring with her on a hunt. As a result, Ren instantly crafted a bow since she knew that a long-range attack would be the best course of action. However, Ren's body was too weak to pull the bowstring, so she had to give up her plan right away. Then she thought of a gun, the most powerful weapon of all, which she instantly needed to grip and could fire without exerting any effort. Ren attempted to make a gun, but her level and mana were insufficient. As Ren was aware of the gun's structure, she needed to create something in place of dynamite. Ren had the idea of using an air gun at this very moment, but instead of using air to fire the stone out, she would use explosive stone-filled bullets. Ren considered it, used magic to compress air into the stone, and then fired it quickly. The power wasn't any less than that of real guns, but there was a drawback: the faster Ren fired, the more mana he consumed. Ren used a gun with an approximate 800 meters per second fire speed, but he only needed 200 meters per second to dispatch a target, saving as much mana as he could. After that, Ren practiced shooting until he ran out of mana before going home to relax. Ren began hunting after waiting until her mana was fully recovered, heading deep into the forest. However, it was still essential to check the status table. Ren's mana was 80, so she could fire roughly 80 rounds. Ren spotted the horned rabbit lurking in nearby bushes and fired straight at it. Only bullets flying at 200 meters per second were fast enough to knock it down, thus Ren easily caught the two-horned rabbit. Ren was happy, preparing to sprint back, when a gigantic wild boar emerged behind her. It rushed to attack Ren, making her pale all over her face. She couldn't run in time, so she had to shoot at the wild boar. However, for a beginner like Ren, moving and aiming at the same time was extremely difficult. She was smacked in the hull by the wild boar, her mouth covered in blood, and fainted. But the notion of dying here disappointed Ren because her lovely life had only just begun. After that, Ren used all of her remaining mana to fuel the stone bullet and used magic to create a vortex in the stone's ass to give it thrust. Ren was in danger of dying with each shot, but fortunately, she was able to hit the wild boar. She went hunting for the first time but came back with 2 different kinds of meat. She sat down at the table and had wild boar and hare meat while smiling happily. The following days, Ren went hunting for bigger animals. This time, Ren targeted a very huge deer and shot it in the heart from a distance, killing it instantly and painlessly. During this period, Ren developed a new skill called Sniper thanks to practicing her aim. This skill helped Ren when she was 300 meters or further from the objective and was followed by the deer's carcass collection. Ren had to scrupulously clean the blood off the house the previous times she took their bodies out of the storage area, so she learned from those mistakes and came up with a new plan. After all, this was the world of magic, so anything was possible as long as Ren had enough imagination. The deer's carcass was divided into many pieces by Ren, who kept the blood, liver, internal organs, and bones because she knew she would need to use them eventually. Ren then threw the useless pieces in a corner and used her imagination to turn them into fertilizer for the backyard garden. As a result, when Ren acted repeatedly, both her skill and level would be greatly raised. In addition, she was of a different race than humans. Hence, the threshold value for promotion was set differently than theirs. Ren had only been there for a few months, but she had already changed. As time went on, autumn approached, and Ren realized that she could easily earn food, so the focus shifted to finding ways to increase the value of her life. For instance, this bed had many layers of spring underneath, making it very soft, and Ren wanted to fall asleep immediately, rolling back and forth, but she finally became bored. After spending enough time in the forest, Ren's level substantially improved. However, she was still unable to manufacture the things she needed since, once she had enough food, there was a place to go back, which meant Ren had lost her motivation to try and was unsure of what to do next. She was rolling when she felt a tiny pressure in her chest. Only now did she notice that her body was enlarged for her age, and with such large breasts, Ren worried that it would make it difficult for her to work. Ren immediately thought of creating a bra because she had memories of a male in her former life. Ren couldn't help being inquisitive when she noticed this body, but after discovering it, Ren breathed heavily in bed, swearing never to be curious again because a girl's body was too risky. Ren, on the other hand, became interested for another 3 days before returning to regular mode. After eating, she started making her first bra, and after a while, Ren successfully constructed an exceedingly sexy outfit, which took her another 3 days of interest. But Ren was determined to seal this lewdness immediately and would now focus solely on developing magic to raise the level. Ren instantly developed a duck rubbing his back, a vibrator, and a water pumping system using the knowledge from the previous life. However, witnessing them shake caused Ren's curiosity to return, and she couldn't contain herself anymore. Ren's curiosity was also included in the status table. It had already attained level 5 and, with a few more days of interest, would reach level 6. However, Ren's curiosity also helped her acquire a new ability called induction, which would be very helpful if magical creatures attacked her house. A very cute wolf cub caught Ren's attention at this precise moment. She hurried over to see what it was and ran to give it a hug, but as she was about to do so, the mother of the cub, who was enormous and possibly even more dangerous than the wild boar before, appeared. As a result, Ren had to attack it first. She did so once, but it instantly fell, surprising Ren a little. She then raced back to check, only to discover that the wolf had been hurt. It was claimed that the wolf was most dangerous when it was hurt. Ren wanted to kill the wolf the moment it was immobile, but when she saw the adorable wolf pup cuddled up to its mother, she hesitated a little, thinking that this was not a situation in which she could kill it. Ren tried to calm herself down by telling herself that she needed to be callous in order to be free in this wilderness, but in the end, she was still not decisive enough to kill it. The mother wolf was injured, so Ren took a bottle of water from the space pocket to treat it. The wolf gradually began to awaken, but it was still cautious of Ren. This was the first time Ren had used water to treat a wild animal. She was unsure if it would be as successful as it had been for people. Fortunately, the mother wolf's wounds swiftly healed. It tried to stand up after that, but Ren paled, wondering if it knew she had just cured it. Eventually, the mother wolf took her baby away after staring at Ren for a while, and Ren could breathe a sigh of relief. They were wild animals, so Ren didn't expect them to return the favor. The rules of nature had always been cold and involuntary. How could wild animals comprehend human emotions? The wolves fled, and Ren went back to her house, thinking that they would never see each other again. However, the wolves ended up living just in front of her house, and seeing them made Ren remember that she had also encountered this mother wolf a few days earlier when she had gone hunting. After that day, she had to divide her treasures among them, and they gradually drew closer to Ren. Nonetheless, the care or worry humans had for animals was truly ludicrous, and Ren didn't want to care about anyone, which was why she had decided to live isolated from the outside world. But Ren's perspective had to alter because the mother wolf's fur was so soft that she could sleep by lying back on it. Ren gave the mother wolf the name Norn and the wolf pup the name Beer. Naming them signified that Ren had welcomed them into her life, but it was also true because the magic pillow Ren made couldn't compare to Norn's fur in softness. As time passed, it was almost the end of autumn and the start of winter, so Ren stopped caring about cultivating and instead went hunting with Norn and Beer. Ren was a little bewildered when Norn started pushing her repeatedly, but she didn't care and just followed along. It came out that Norn had discovered there was a pack of orcs nearby and wanted Ren to go hunting for them. Because orcs were magical creatures, their meat was extremely scarce on the market. If Ren ignored them, the villagers would be attacked, but, thanks to her sniper abilities and air bullets, these orcs were nothing to Ren. She stood at a distance and shot them one by one. There were 10 orcs gathered here, so Ren had a large harvest this time, wisely paying Norn an orc because it had spotted these orcs regardless. Ren realized that Norn could detect these orcs from a long distance and even sent her here to pursue them. Norn was so clever that Ren used her assessment skills on Norn. Ren saw Norn's race on the status table. Upon closer inspection, it was revealed that Norn was actually a god beast named Fenrir rather than a typical wolf, which made sense given that there was no way a wolf could possibly be as large as Norn. In legend, Fenrir could converse with humans, but Norn was unlikely to do so because it was still too young. Yet it didn't matter because Norn understood what Ren said. Then Norn's sensing ability, which was far superior to Ren's, came next. However, something had previously overcome Norn's sensing ability and attacked it, making it helpless. As a result, this creature must be incredibly deadly and be hiding somewhere in the forest. Ren seemed uneasy just thinking about it, so she decided to be extra cautious. The orc's meat was really excellent when Ren used their fat to cook it that evening at her home, but after she had finished eating for a while, she developed a stomach ache from using their fat to fry, so she decided to buy another cooking oil. Ren was on her way to the city when Norn discovered a girl being chased by 3 goblins. Ren didn't want to engage with humans, but the girl would die if Ren didn't show up, so Ren had to break her rule this time. The goblins had cornered that girl, and Ren was still running full speed to her rescue. At a distance of approximately 50 meters, Ren desperately wanted to use air bullets to shoot the goblins, but she was scared that the girl might get hit because they were so near her. After all, Ren had to try a new method, which was to use the newly manufactured energy pill, which she took from the storage place and injected directly into her vein, causing Ren's body to be considerably stimulated. Ren's speed rose with the power, but the price was high, and it only functioned for a short period of time before Ren's body would be in terrible pain. Ren shot an air bullet straight into the goblin's mouth as Norn bit the goblin away to keep it away from the girl. Ren raced to save the second girl, instructing Norn to target one in the corner as she aimed at the other. With only one goblin remaining, Ren put all of her strength into her bones. Falling from the sky, Ren punched the remaining goblin in the neck with such force that it instantly died. After that, Ren made it safely to land and went to check on the other girl. But the girl seemed frightened, which confused Ren a little because it looked like she had already destroyed the goblins. However, it turned out that the girl was frightened because Norn had devoured the goblin right in front of her. The little girl quickly passed out, so Ren took her home to take care of her. When the little girl awoke, she remembered seeing Norn devouring goblins, which scared her and required Ren to re-encourage her. Then Ren brought the girl a cup of steaming tea to calm her down. Because the girl was still worried that Ren might poison her, Ren had to drink the tea first. As the girl took a sip, her eyes brightened, and she complimented the tea's sweetness, which made Ren wrinkle her nose. Ren was able to produce a type of sugar to feel the taste of the tea instantly after drinking it, thanks to her recollections from her previous life. Ren asked the girl why she had been assaulted by goblins when she had calmed down. The girl replied that her town had been afflicted by a disease, so she had to walk into the forest in search of medication and was then attacked by goblins. Ren assumed the illness was the flu after hearing the description, so she made the girl a bag of pills, which used too much mana, and then set the potion packet in front of her. Seeing it made that girl think Ren was a witch, but Ren rejected it immediately, claiming it was too late and telling her to stay here for a rest. Nonetheless, since that female was suspicious, Ren had to resort to her past lifestyle of receiving guests, hurrying into the kitchen to prepare an exceedingly superb meal for that girl. The two of them took a bath after eating. The small girl was surprised by how big the bed and bathtub were. The following morning, after the girl had a good night's sleep, it was time for her to depart, so Ren offered her some energy tablets. Ren was trying to be a kind person even though she wasn't used to it at all, but in the end, receiving praise from others was great. Unbeknownst to Ren, however, her actions would change her entire life. As winter approached, Ren was forced to go out and get additional food because she couldn't just sit inside and continue to eat chestnuts. Last time, the girl said that her village wasn't far from here, so it would be very troublesome if someone came here, and Ren didn't like it at all. However, as soon as Ren had that thought, a man pointed at her and called her a witch, then asked Ren about a lot of things, which made Ren incredibly uncomfortable, to which Ren flatly refused. She had no responsibility to respond to him, a stranger who had so many questions for her and even called her a witch, which was exceedingly bothersome. Ren despised these types of people the most. However, that guy quickly stated that it was because Coco, his sister, had recently received medication from Ren and had told him about it. It turned out that the other female was the younger sister of these two people. Ren didn't care at all, and she was about to go when Neil's sister tried to apologize to Ren for her brother's rudeness by saying that they had come here this time to thank Ren because the medicine she had given them had helped their mother's condition significantly. Ren breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this. She had been worried that it was another disease, but happily, she had predicted correctly. Yet, because there were so many other sick people in the community, the sister wanted Ren to assist her. Ren became so annoyed that her entire face turned pale. Then, Neil's sister hurried over to cover her brother's mouth, introducing herself as Corey, and apologized to Ren on behalf of her brother, stating they came here this time as agents begging for medicine. Corey also said that they didn't care if Ren was a witch or not. All they wanted was medicine to treat their illness. Ren wanted to help, but it needed 100 mana to produce a pack of pills, so she could only make one a day, and she didn't know when to make enough for them. As a result, she flatly refused, citing a lack of ingredients to make medicine. Neil, on the other hand, had not given up, trying to ask Ren what the ingredients were, saying he would help Ren get them, but Ren turned and walked into the house as Neil pulled her back, and seeing Ren in danger, Norn yelled at them. Ren told them one last time that she couldn't help them with this and then left, but when she saw the expression of Coco, Ren immediately felt terrible. Ren was preparing to go hunting the next day when she noticed Neil sneaking up on her doorstep. The next day, and the day after that, Ren didn't want to go see him at all, but the guilt of not helping them became stronger and stronger. Ren therefore prepared one more bag of pills, sneaked out of the house to deliver it to Coco, and requested Coco tell Neil to stop bothering her. Ren went gleefully home, thinking it was time to carry out the routine after that. Ren jumped into bed and slept pleasantly till the next morning. Ren was asleep when there was a knock on the door. She didn't get dressed and just walked down to answer it, but as soon as she saw Neil, she was scared and quickly closed the door and changed into another outfit before peeking out to see what the knocker was there for. It turned out that Rael had come to thank Ren for the medicine and had also brought Ren some veggies in appreciation. Ren accepted Rael's compassion and sent him on his way without letting him say anything else. In the meantime, the warlord had targeted Ren's energy potion. The potions were of inconceivable quality, and he was very interested to know who made them. Ren had a peaceful December with no unwanted guests, so she spent her time at home practicing spells and producing energy pills. Nevertheless, Ren received menstrual periods due to being in a girl's body, so Ren had to manufacture a bottle of painkillers and lay in bed for several days. When she awoke, her house was already covered in snow, and in January, this planet too had a tradition of welcoming the new year. During her time in the orphanage, children would eat much better than usual on New Year's Day. Ren had a flashback to her friends there, but she didn't want to contact them again. The house was covered in snow, but instead of shoveling it, Ren gathered it all and stored it in case it was needed later. Ren's birthday was in February, but she wasn't sure because the nuns at the orphanage picked Ren up in February, so they believed it was her birthday. Thus, Ren baked a cream cake herself, and Beer and Norn also sent gifts to congratulate Ren, which was lovely. Ren's lewd habit was growing as a result of having to loll around her house all day, and it had already reached level 6. In March, the snow had finally started to melt, allowing Ren to go outside and practice her sword skills. However, even with energy supplements, her results weren't very good. She thought it would simply be quiet days, but eventually, an unexpected visitor showed up. A man came to Ren's house that morning and begged her to give him some energy tablets that Ren had given Coco the previous time in the hopes that the witch would give him free items. However, Ren became enraged and told Norn to drive the man away. Yet, the following day, even more people arrived to ask for medicine. Norn hurried out to find a guy to ask about the problem. It turned out that Ren's creation of the energy tablets had reached the ears of the ruler of this region. Therefore, the Lord had asked the army to come here and confiscate them. As a result, before the Lord's arrival, a group of people wanted to come and ask Ren for some medicine to charge high prices for when they sold it to merchants. The situation became too confusing for Ren to continue, so she called Norn over to let it know she was leaving and asked if it wanted to go with her. The moment Norn replied yes, Ren was overjoyed. She had been living here for a while, so it was also time to discover new interests. Ren had built the house with the ability to be moved whenever she wanted, as she thought about the present situation when designing it. Ren finished collecting the house and walked east, towards Haruka City. Kokus village was in the south, so Ren didn't have to worry about bumping into them while going. Ren was confident that no one would recognize her because only the Coco brothers had ever seen her face, and Haruka City was a large city. Neil, in the meantime, went to the front of Ren's house and saw it to be empty. This made him feel terrible, and he blamed himself, thinking that Ren wouldn't be in this situation if he hadn't sold those potions. Ren accompanied Beer and Norn in their attempt to flee the forest, a bright light flashing in her face. Despite the fact that her soul was an old uncle, Ren had never expected such a new event. While she was excited, she collided with a carriage. However, the person who hit her was a relatively modest merchant, and as that man was on his way to Haruka City, he offered Ren a lift, while Norn and Beer followed behind. The merchant was taken aback when he saw that Ren had 2 wolves with her and assumed Ren was a beastmaster. This man was Nickel, a young man who was probably around 30 years old. The teenager driving was Lyad, who was a few years older than Ren. And lastly, this little girl was Elsa, Nickel's daughter, and she had been following Ren ever since Ren got in the car. The 2 people behind them appeared to be Nickel's bodyguards, and just seeing their attitude made Ren feel like she was not wanting to talk with them, but they were clearly staring at her breasts. Nearing dusk, Nickel let the group relax by the river. Ren asked Norn and Beer to guard while she went outside for some exercise. She knew taking a carriage would get her to the city faster, but her back hurt from sitting in it all day. Something horrible happened at that same moment as the guards were robbing Nickel of his food. Curious, Ren hurried to check on Lyot. Nickel hired those 2 men to watch the cart, but they didn't bring any food, and now they were even requesting their master's food. Because of the lack of food and water, if they didn't reach the city in time, they would all starve. Ren had meant to be quiet for a while, but she ran into this, so she had to come to Nickel's rescue. Ren stepped over to Nickel, explaining that since they had given her a ride, she hoped she could repay him with part of her food. They were all taken aback when Ren suddenly took a rabbit from the space pocket, thinking that she had just taken it from the item box, which had far less capacity for storage than Ren's skill but had a similar function. But, thankfully, they mistook it for an item box. If they had known Ren's true abilities, it would have been extremely complex. After giving them the rabbit, Ren wondered where Elsa was going. It turned out that she was hanging out with Beer, but Nickel scolded Elsa constantly since there were so many magical creatures in this area and it would be unsafe for her to go on any errands. Elsa's clothes were filthy, but Ren used magic to clean them. After Elsa headed into the forest to gather mushrooms for food, Ren peered over and brushed off the dangerous mushrooms. This shocked Nickel because he believed Ren was not only a beastmaster but also possessed an item box and an assessing skill. As Nickel started to feel suspicious, Ren quickly used her skill to make a glass to outperform him, and she claimed that she was able to use the assessing skill due to the glass. Nickel was eager to check it out. Then Ren demonstrated her cooking talents to everyone, and everyone applauded her meals. Although Ren didn't want much interaction, it wasn't bad to see their happy faces. The following day, they all started off together. They would get to the city in just 2 days, but as they were traveling, they came across a herd of 6 orcs. 2 of the bodyguards fled instantly, ignorant of the danger Nickel's party was in. Faced with this circumstance, Ren lost focus for a few seconds. Before escaping, the other 2 bodyguards even sliced Mr. Nickel, so he couldn't go with everyone anymore, hoping Ren would assist him in getting Elsa into hiding while he bought time for them. There was no way Ren would abandon Nickel in that situation. She took a healing potion out of her pocket, which instantly healed Nickel's wound. Ren then leapt out of the carriage to fight the orcs. There were 6 orcs in total, but Norn and Beer disturbed them, and Ren seized the chance to use the hollow-headed bullet she had constructed from the space store, aiming it directly at the target. Ren concentrated on shooting the next orc the moment Elsa shouted to draw Ren's attention to the orc that was hooking a tire. Elsa's shout startled Ren, who questioned when this orc had come this close to her and when the spear was ready to strike her. Fortunately, Norn arrived in time to help Ren. When Ren turned around, she noticed an orc with water magic on its head. This had to be Norn's doing, so Ren handled the rest. Beer was also battling hard. Ren had observed Beer's capacity to move so flexibly until now, most likely because Norn had taught it how to hunt over the winter months. Ren managed to take down all of the orcs obstructing her carriage just a second later, thanks to Norn's assistance. Ren had always avoided these orcs, so when she came face to face with them while they were in her way, she was so furious and forgot that she needed to be very calm to confront them. Fortunately, Norn had been able to calm Ren down. Because Nickel's wound was severe, they decided to stay here tonight and travel to the city the next day. After all, Nickel's wound was fairly deep. The fact that Ren's medicine was so successful made Nickel think it was a good thing, and he didn't want to take it from Ren. He offered to give Ren money, but she refused, telling them that her purpose in visiting the city was to join the guild. Consequently, she would need Nickel to testify on her bail. Mr. Nicola, who wanted to go to the guild to complain about the 2 fugitive bodyguards, also asked Ren to accompany him as a witness. Next, Ren treated everyone to grilled orcs, which were all brand new meals. Even though Nickel had previously eaten orcs, this was the first time he had eaten food this good. After eating, everyone dozed off. They finally arrived in the city the following morning, obtained Norn and Beer's travel papers, and were allowed to enter. Undoubtedly, Ren belonged in this enormous city. Although she had managed to survive alone for a year, the absence of material civilization was not acceptable, and the sheer number of new things in this place delighted Ren to no end. After listening to the presentation, the guildmaster roughly understood what the 2 bodyguards had done. There were also witnesses, so there was nothing to doubt. The guildmaster also felt that recently, such things happened very often. However, the only thing he needed was that Ren, such a small girl, could defeat 6 orcs. It was truly unbelievable. If it was said that the 2 wolves behind them defeated them, it would be a bit less surprising, so Ren decided to take out some orc meat for him to examine. But he accidentally said that he had an item box, so he had to ask for Mr. Nickel's help, assuming that what Ren owned was just a large-capacity magic briefcase. Nickel, after this journey with Ren, knew that Ren didn't want to stand out too much, so he took this opportunity to help her. The guild master even thought that Ren was a high-level adventurer. If she could stay in the city to work for him, that would be great. Ren denied this immediately. It was true that she would stay in the city, but she was not an adventurer. Now was the time for her to register. This shocked the boss. Not being an adventurer but being able to do such things, it was incomprehensible. Seeing that Ren didn't want to share, the boss didn't ask too deeply. After that, Ren was helped by the guild secretary to register for a guild membership card. She defeated 6 orcs and received 12 gold coins. The secretary also helped Ren register the 2 wolves as Ren's magical beasts, so from now on, when entering or leaving the city, there will be no trouble for her. Next was another thing. The exam girl asked Ren to take off his hood to confirm his face. Let's call it extremely cute, making other adventurers pay attention. Ren finally got his adventurer card. Ren excitedly ran home to show off to Uncle Nickel's family, then asked Uncle Nickel to help him find a motel big enough for both Norn and Beer to live. Because Ren was a benefactor of Uncle Nickel's family, he invited Ren to his house, but Ren refused because she needed a private space to continue having sex. So Ren immediately rented a high-class hotel. 1 night stay with food was 1 gold coin. Adding a cage for Norn and Beru would cost a bit too much, but it's okay as long as Ren works hard. Her life will be abundant from now on. Regarding the 2 wolves, because they were locked in a cage, Ren felt sorry for them, so he always prepared food to bring to them. As for Ren, the most amazing thing is still the huge bathroom. Even though she has self-cleaning magic, soaking in the tub is still the best. After showering, Ren went to the restaurant. Just show them his membership card and they will automatically bring food. The food in a high-end hotel is also very good. After eating, of course we do that and then go to sleep. The next morning Ren went to the Adventurers Guild. The papers stuck on the board were probably quests. At this time, the secretary called Ren over. Because Ren was new, she guided Ren to do some easy tasks first. Like picking herbs, any adventurer new to the profession would do this task. Ren accepted it and then went into the forest. Because there weren't many people here, she could freely use her skills. After gathering things, Ren set up a tent to rest for a bit. After a while, he turned around and saw Norn and Beru bringing back a bunch of monsters. Ren immediately understood that Norn was asking Ren to cook food for him while they had to stay in the barn. Ren packed everything into his space bag and left. She left so quickly that the secretary was a bit surprised. But it doesn't matter as long as Ren completes the mission. Show Ren to the notice board to see the price of buying herbs. Ren has already collected a bunch of herbs, but just bring a little out for now. After finishing work on the first day, Ren happily returned to the hotel. It was time to enjoy the meal she had been looking forward to. But somehow it's no different from yesterday. Eating the same dish over and over is not good at all. Ren needs to change his taste immediately. Ren called the flight attendant over. Borrow a plate and a knife. Then cut the loaf of bread and stuff vegetables in the middle and add sausage. So the simple hot dog dish has been completed. It's delicious and just lacks a little sauce. At dinner the next day, Ren had his idea stolen by the restaurant chef. But whatever, Ren didn't want to stand out too much. Having eaten enough today, Ren continued to take on the task of collecting herbs. That said, Ren wanted to go to the forest to level up his skills, but there were still a bunch of herbs in Ren's space. But why the hell did the group of young new adventurers keep following him, not wanting to get into trouble? Ren ran away. Today Ren no longer depends on Norn's sensing ability, but trains his own skills. Ren found a camellia tree. When talking about camellia trees, we must talk about camellia oil. If there is vegetable oil, Ren can fry dishes without using orc fat, as well as reduce mana consumption when creating shampoo and shower gel. Ren collected all the tea berries and noticed that the group of adventurers had left, so she pulled out her camping gear. Started making camellia oil. The work was completed a long time ago, but Ren was in no hurry to return. Ren simply didn't want to have to wait in line, so he didn't return until late in the evening. The remuneration she received today was about 5 gold coins, which was enough to stay in the room for a few more days. After returning to the hotel, Ren ran to find the flight attendant and asked her to let him use the kitchen. As long as Ren didn't dirty it, it was okay. The kitchen had enough ingredients, and the head chef was standing in the corner laughing at Ren. If that's the case, she will show him what cooking is. Ren got to work in an extremely skillful way, surprising both the chef and the hostess. Just a moment later, the Sandwich sandwich with orc meat was released. The flight attendant looked at the cake and the scent and drooled. So Ren invited her to eat one bite, and she would remember it for the rest of her life. Only now did she feel that she was being a bit rude and introduced her name to Ren. Ren just smirked. She would stay at this inn for a while longer, so she hoped Lily would become closer to her. And the chef witnessed Ren's amazing dish. The next day, he was determined to copy it again, but it seemed like it failed this time. However, since the diners had not yet experienced Ren's original dish, this copy of the chef's dish was enough to satisfy them. Lily quickly ran over to apologize to the chef, but Ren didn't really care because he borrowed their kitchen after all. Then he asked Lily to let him borrow the kitchen again, revealing to Lily that this time he would make a secret dish that makes Lily drool all over. Ren couldn't use air bullets forever, so he went to the store according to Selena's instructions to buy himself some daggers. Feeling pretty good, she then went to the market and happened to meet Mr. Nichols selling goods here. As expected, he is a hard-working businessman and can do anything. At a glance, every item he sells is valuable, but the most valuable is flour. With his appraisal skills, Ren knew this was high-value flour, so he didn't hesitate to buy Mr. Nichols' entire stall. Then there was a transaction with Mr. Nickel. As long as he had any valuable items, she would buy them all back. Today Ren has collected a bunch of valuable items. The remaining amount is not too much. When it was time to go on the next mission, Ren still chose the mission of collecting herbs to keep it simple. Today the group of young adventurers continued to follow Ren, but whatever that was, Ren tried to be as calm as possible while the children gathered herbs beside him. But when he saw the girl next to him taking the wrong weed test, Ren couldn't keep his mouth shut and spoke up to remind her. And so a whole bunch of trouble came to Ren when this girl had no experience with herbs at all, so he had to run after her and remind her. Ren was breathing heavily and tired. She couldn't help forever like that. It's time to do his own thing and not care about the kids anymore. Ren pulled out his camping gear. At this time, a boy ran up, introducing himself as Shin, the brother of the girl that Ren helped, wanting to thank Ren and apologize for following Ren. But only when they followed Ren did they obtain more herbs than usual. Ren crawled into the tent to start his own work, making flour to cook udon noodles. By stomping on the flour a lot, it will have a certain elasticity, and at that point the noodles will be extremely flexible. After walking for a while until noon, Ren let it rest for a bit and went to eat a snack, then continued to prepare the ingredients until he could create noodles. Then Ren left. Today, I gently collected 10 gold coins from the guild. Ren returned to the hotel and continued to borrow Lily from the kitchen. The chef kept staring at Ren to see the recipe, but Ren didn't really care and started working. A moment later, the bowl of udon noodles with chicken sauce was brought out, making Lily drool. Of course, Ren made an extra portion for Lily. The two ate deliciously in front of the customers, making them very curious and ran to ask the chef to provide them with the same dish as before. The next day, continuing the work of picking herbs, the group of children led by Shin came today in even larger numbers. Ren wanted to cut off the tail but couldn't, so he just let it go. After a while, Ren found a very large herb garden. The children happily ran to harvest together. Once again Shin came and bowed to thank Ren for his help. Right at this moment, a scream rang out. An ogre appeared to attack them. Norn and Beer tried to help keep it from getting close to the children, so they had to ask for Ren's help. This time it wasn't an air bullet, but a dagger that Ren one-shot and killed the giant ogre, causing the children to go cross-eyed and thank her profusely. After finishing work here, Ren went back to borrow the kitchen, but the chef was upset with Ren and didn't want to lend Ren anymore. Lily reminded Ren in a low voice that it was because he couldn't make the dish Ren made yesterday. So jealous that Lily had an argument with him and then took Ren away to find his sister. It turned out that Lily's sister was Selena's secretary at the Adventure Guild, so they told Selena everything right away. Stealing someone else's recipe is indeed a violation of ethical rules, so Selena will help Ren complain to the hotel. To thank her, Ren invited her to enjoy his udon noodles. Looking at the satisfied faces of the two cousins made Ren happy. But right at this moment, the guild boss came to mention the matter of Ren defeating the ogre in the forest and wanted her to tell her in more detail. This time, the guild boss had to thank Ren for saving the lives of those children. However, Ren's level was not enough to accept the subjugation mission and she was able to kill an ogre herself. This would be very troublesome, that's why the guild boss asked Ren to sell all the ogre's materials. For civilians, the meat of these monsters is very valuable and few people can collect it, so its price is very high. However, even though they are expensive, the gourmet group is still willing to buy them, so if Ren does not intend to use their meat for illegal research, the guild boss wants Ren to sell it back to the guild. Having said that, Ren had no choice but to sell it, this time earning up to 20 gold coins. enough to make Ren jump with joy. Because this time the ogre strayed into this forest, it was likely that there would be others, so the guild boss ordered no one to enter that forest anymore. During the days of detention, Ren went to the river to collect more ingredients. Of course, the other children also followed her. After the time she saved them from the ogre, they considered Ren as their boss. No one dared to act on their own anymore and just stood silently observing Ren. Ren created a simple fish trap and threw it into the river to save the effort of catching it. After catching it, quickly cook a simple dish that still retains its delicious taste and makes you eat it alone while being watched by children. So Ren allowed them to use his kitchen as long as they caught fish themselves. The kid Shin ran over to thank Ren, then sat down to open his heart to her. Originally, they were all children of merchants, but due to business failure and early death, the Shin brothers had no one to rely on. What could two children do? So Shin called on other children in the same situation to join him and try to earn money to make ends meet. Since following Ren Shin, he has helped those kids earn a lot of money enough to live a life without having to worry about the next days. Shin was actually very grateful to Ren. Ren listened and felt sympathy for them, so he got up and went to look for some edible ingredients. Then, he showed Shin little by little which ones could be eaten and which ones could not. Ren could make a delicious dish with just one potato. Eating so much with the kids, I forgot all about the way home. Then the Adventurer Guild had so much buying right now, forcing Ren to stand in line. As soon as he entered the guild, Ren overheard the conversation of several adventurers. Her story of defeating the ogre had spread far and wide. Not wanting to get into trouble, Ren tried to hand over the work quickly and then run away, but they discovered her. Right now, a guy came forward to take off Ren's hood. Who the hell was his name? Neil. The brother of the little girl Coco that Ren once saved still lives in the forest, not only Neil but also his sister Cory. They were originally adventurers, so coming here was normal, but they didn't expect to meet Ren here. Ren was so scared that he didn't want to get into trouble and quickly returned to the hotel. The next day, why the hell did they arbitrarily follow Ren with the intention of keeping her safe? Ren was so fed up with this scene. She didn't ask them to follow her, but she still wanted to split the reward. After finishing the job, Ren returned to the guild to complain to Selena. As soon as he stepped outside, Neil and his girlfriend Tess were already waiting here. Neil invited Ren to dinner with him. His girlfriend was standing right next to him and dared to do this. They had a big argument in the middle of the street, causing Ren to get caught up in this awkward case. This is truly hell on earth. Ren can't live here anymore. It's time to pack up and leave, and the place Ren is aiming for will be the sea. After complaining about Neil stalking me back to the guild, Ren's life has gotten a little better, but that's only part of it because Neil is always looking for Ren's ass. And the head chef is always lurking around to steal recipes. Worst of all, Ren has become too prominent in the guild. She wanted to go somewhere to get rid of this anger, to the southern coastal village that Ren had heard about at the guild. As expected, we still need to go there. Changing the mood at the beach, eating delicious sea fish, and sleeping comfortably is what Ren wants to experience right now. In addition, Ren wants to eat fresh fish, but in this city, it's all pre-processed fish and there's no fresh fish at all. Ren decided to go to the coastal village. Ren told this story to Lily. She cried like Ren was about to die, probably because Ren made her addicted to the food he made. Before leaving, Ren went to the guild one last time. From what Ren had done in the past month, the guild specially promoted Ren from level F to level E. Finally, there was Shin's group of children, and Shin knew that one day that moment would come. Once again, thank you wholeheartedly for helping us in the past time. Thanks to Ren, Shin can now buy self-defense weapons, which makes Ren extremely touched. She left Shin a bunch of energy drinks. He could use them while he was injured or sell them to make money. Now that he was done with this village, Ren's journey to the south began. While staying in Harula City, there were many annoying things that made it impossible for Ren to focus on his routine. So Ren decided to focus on that in the forest, considering this an action just to relieve his mood. After 3 weeks of hard work, Ren finally moved on. Of course, during that time of rest, Ren also created many more things. On the way, Ren happened to save a merchant who was being attacked by goblins. Coincidentally, he was from a coastal village, so he gave Ren a ride to the village. Ren finally set foot on the beach, but because it wasn't summer yet, the water was very cold. Ren is so excited and doesn't know when summer will get here, so she can wear some extremely attractive bikinis. To thank Ren for saving him, businessman Robert let Ren stay at his house and packed up an attic for Ren. In the following days, Ren continued to bury herself in making new dishes, seaweed and tuna that Robert had her buy all. At noon, Ren sat on the shore and used his creative skills to make a lot of salt. While walking, Ren discovered seaweed, so he immediately stuffed it into the space storage. With this, Ren can make seaweed rice balls and stay in the village for a while longer. She always buys all the seafood the villagers catch, so they don't hesitate to keep it in stock and try their best to catch it and sell it to Ren. After a while, Ren felt that this was enough to open a sushi restaurant, so Ren decided to leave and return to Harula City. He happened to see some adventurers being attacked by ogres, so Ren helped them. They thanked Ren profusely and then told her the story. A few weeks ago, someone discovered there was a group of orcs in the forest. So the adventurer guild leader formed a group to conquer. At first it was fine, but when they encountered the ogre lord, everything changed completely. They couldn't fight back and were forced to run away. Hearing that this group of ogres came from the western forest, at this moment Norn roared fiercely, making Ren immediately understand that this ogre lord was the one who caused Norn's fatal wound. If you dare to bully Norn, Ren will have to avenge him. Understanding and developing will make the apple worth as much as gold coins, going back to the time when Ren left the city for one day. From the main road, Ren discovered a very deep forest. If she built a house here, no one would be able to bother her. Ren pulled out the space storage to his beloved house, opened the door and entered the house, then the grand jury began again. After 3 days of happily doing that, Ren was much less stressed. You guys think Ren is a lustful person, but that's only partly true. The reason Ren came here was because she discovered that in this forest there were many maple trees growing. According to research, this is a sugar maple tree. Using it, Ren can create many things such as sugar maple syrup or sugar candy. The way to collect is very simple, just punch a hole in the tree trunk and let the sap flow into the pot. After collecting, just process it through one more step and Ren can use creative magic to turn it into the street. During this time, Ren continued to wander around. Her living skills had already reached level 10. Receiving countless other secondary skills, including skills that help Ren do business, is another reason for Ren to linger in this forest. Before going to the library that Selena introduced, Ren saw a magical stone golem written in the book. Ren wants to try creating a few, so he takes advantage of this time. Creating them is very simple, just give them a human-like frame and then inject magic power into it. However, they can only repeat a few simple actions, so they cannot help in combat. That's why Ren improved it into a golem that can be controlled remotely, by making it an additional antenna. It will receive the command Ren transmits from magic power and execute it, right when it is excited when creating a new item. Ren immediately had an idea in his head. Looking at the vibrator in his hand, if he just added it to the row of golems, wouldn't he create a set of tools to serve that purpose, saving him having to do it himself? Thinking it was over, Ren continued to riot with the golems for another 3 weeks. Because she was in the forest with no one around, Ren freely showed off her personality, her voice echoing throughout the mountains and forests. From the top of the mountain, Ren used his hawk eye skill to observe the ogres and discovered the Ogre King. The adventurer guild master is trying to fend them off, but the end is near. It's not good for these ogres to reach Harula City, it's time for Ren to take action. But before that, there was still an important thing to do. Norn rushed to the guild master's side to assist. He also immediately recognized the letter that Ren had tucked under Norn's neck, first expressing his desire to help the guild master with this matter. But he needs to agree with Ren on 3 conditions. The first is to divide the materials obtained from these ogres. Second, kept Ren's information hidden after the subjugation, and lastly he had to protect Ren from all unfavorable situations. If you agree, just tell Norn. Ren will launch a beam shot after hearing its howl. The guild boss hesitated for a while, then finally agreed with Ren. Because fighting here was much better than fighting in the city, Norn let out a howl and Ren received the signal immediately. Ren began to attack, with a total of 16 ogres. At this distance, Ren could not shoot directly at the ogre queen, so her strategy would be to gradually wear them out. This time Ren continued to shoot bullets with a knife, not air bullets. Countless flying knives were shot at the ogres' faces, their numbers dwindling, causing even a few adventurers to see the opportunity to turn the odds. They rushed up to coordinate with Norn to attack the ogres, and finally Ren was able to consume some of the ogres to protect the ogre lord. Norn was already facing the Orge Lord. Both sides rushed to attack, but Norn seemed unable to hit the Orge Lord. If that's the case, then Norn is in danger. Ren must help him and begin preparing another powerful attack. He intended to save a little mana for self-defense, but if he put all his strength into any attack, Ren wouldn't be able to fight anymore for the rest of the day. Because if you save it and don't cause any damage to the Orge Lord, then it's 0. Ren fired a powerful blow straight at the Ogre Lord's feet, causing it to lose its balance, and that's when Norn ended this match. One attack bit the ogre lord's head off. Then Norn howled loudly, signaling that they had won this battle. Finished, Ren hid in a bush near the guild boss, mentioning their previous agreement. For the orge materials, Ren asked him to sell them for him and then give her the money back. The guild boss also tried to hide. Before the adventurers discovered that there was someone behind them helping, he had someone secretly pick up all the knives that Ren had shot. Now that there was no evidence that Ren helped them in this battle, the guild boss gave the knives back to Ren and led the team away. Ren lay down on Norn's back to let it take her home. She also ran out of mana for the battle she had just finished. We were almost back in the city but too tired, so Ren took a break next to the main road. The main street was currently very busy, as those who defeated the ogres were also flocking to the city. While lying down, two strangers came to tell Ren that if he doesn't have the strength, he should hurry back to the city or sit here and be eaten by an orge. Ren just said yes because they didn't know that this person with no real power had just saved their lives. Seeing that Ren's breasts were so big, they invited Ren to drink with them, which made Norn angrily roar and chase them away. Next were the two adventurers that Ren saved earlier. They thanked Ren profusely for saving them. After these two people came the name Neil. The princess hated this guy, so she ignored whatever he said, only to be dragged away by his lover Tess. It's been a month since Ren returned to Hyrule City, and nothing has changed other than subjugating the ogres. For now, let's go back to the hotel first. Even though God hates the chef here, this is the only place that harbors Norn and beer. Entering the hotel, it was full of people. The hotel had run out of rooms, making everyone extremely angry. They traveled a very long way, coming here just to eat that famous dish, but it didn't work out. What is the famous dish? Ren was a bit confused, so he quickly ran away from Lily. It turned out to be the cake that the chef had copied Ren's failure. Even though it failed, in the eyes of others it was still a delicious dish. The cake's reputation had spread to the capital, so many people came here just to enjoy that cake. If there are no more rooms, Ren was about to go somewhere else, but Lily kept it. The hotel owner had left an entire room for Ren. Because it was because of Ren that his hotel was selling so expensively, that was the businessman's motto, and Lily handed over the room key. That night the restaurant was full of tables. This motel is basic, so it will prepare a few dishes for customers to choose from. Most of the customers who come here only aim for the orc meat bread. Looking at the bread the chef makes, Ren can't eat it because it's full of fat. The house has a new hostess named Elisa, Lily's friend. Because Lily was busy, Ren called Elisa over and asked her to bring some bread to his room. Elisa agreed because she heard from Lily that Ren's food was extremely delicious, so she also wanted to try it. 30 minutes later, both Elisa and Lily went to Ren's room and enjoyed the authentic bread made by Ren. The next day, when Ren went to the Adventure Guild to receive the reward, a guy stopped her. He realized that the wolf that followed Ren was the one who helped them in yesterday's battle. This made Ren sweat all over. Luckily, the guild boss appeared in time to help her. He and the other adventurers had agreed not to mention this matter anymore. That idiot was just a rare case. Then he led Ren to his room to receive the reward. A heavy bag of money made Ren's eyes cross. Right now, Ren met Lily and Selena. Lily brought her food, and meeting Ren here gave her the opportunity to enjoy new food. Ren invited the guild master to eat with their group as well. This time Ren treated them to a dish made from shrimp she had purchased in the coastal village. It was so delicious that they couldn't stop eating. Before dessert, Ren invited everyone to have grape pudding. Even though they were full, they still fought to eat as much as they could. At the end of lunch, the food Ren prepared was all swept away by these three people. Looking at them lying on the floor in satisfaction also made Ren happy. This was her complete victory. At the end of lunch, the other three people ate so much that their stomachs were full and they couldn't move anymore. As for Ren, she needed to learn more things, so she went to the library. Confirming the issues related to golems, there are three main skills in creating golems. In which the automata production skill is a high-level skill. In this, the origin of golems comes from metallurgy. Ren didn't know if there was any way to master this technique. Creating a golem from a creative skill would be fine. However, it consumed Ren too much mana. That's why she needed to master the alchemy technique, but there was no way at present, so she just left it there for now. Next is the body control technique. This is a high-level skill that maintains the body. Ren wanted to learn it to perform that habit, ultimately strengthening his body's magic power. It is similar to the hawk eye skill that focuses mana into the eyes to amplify Ren's vision. There is another way to strengthen the body. Instead of using mana, fighters use their own blood. But Ren's body is so weak that he doesn't know what to do now, but that's all for today. As someone who wants to have all the skills, sooner or later Ren will have to absorb all of these. After that, Ren turned on her status panel. She acquired the skill of reading quickly and later it was less time-consuming. After finishing her business at the guild, Ren went to see Mr. Nickel. This time she bought all of his stalls. Hearing about Ren's recent trip to the coastal village made Mr. Nickel very interested. But Ren didn't invite me to go with him. Ren could only hum along because if she invited him along, how could she do that habit? Ren caught a lot of fish and brought it home. Mr. Nickel also wanted to do the sea fish business. But because no one in the family knows how to use water magic, that is impossible. Nickel brought Ren a pile of barley flour. With this, Ren can make more noodles. She wanted to make more candy, so she asked Mr. Nickel where to buy eggs. Currently, Mr. Nickel doesn't have it, but if Ren likes, he can still import it for her. With Ren's skills, Mr. Nickel feels that she should buy directly because it will be fresher. Of course, to do that, Ren needs to register for a merchant travel permit. As for milk, it's a pity Mr. Nickel's stall doesn't have the ability to import it because milk is only available in the royal capital. If it's transported long distances, it will spoil. Speaking of milk, Mr. Nickel remembered there was a village in the north. Apparently they raised cows there. Nickel immediately drew a map for Ren. It's time for her to go on a new journey, this time to collect eggs and cow's milk. For a long journey, Ren cannot walk forever, he only needs a horse-drawn carriage. The next day Ren continued to pick herbs with the children. While they were picking herbs, Ren sat in a corner bringing materials to make a carriage. She had carefully observed the horse's skeletal structure. Creating the skeleton was quite simple. Next is the operating system for the horse to operate. Ren will use the org's magic stones. After working for a while, Ren was hungry and took out the ingredients to cook, of course calling the children to eat with him. After they were full, the children fell asleep and Ren completed the horse golem, finally succeeding. However, when I tried to let it move, it was not at all like Ren's expectations. It seems like it needs to be improved further. Learning from his previous failure, Ren went into the city to observe the horse closely. Looking up until now, Ren couldn't absorb anything. She tried to put more magic into her eyes and tried to stare even more. Ren finally understood the structure of the entire human being, from the skeleton to the organs. Its muscle bundle. This time, Ren is determined not to fail again. Thanks to his intense concentration, Ren has acquired a new skill. It's called analysis. Thanks to it, Ren can see through the entire structure of everything. Observing closely, Ren returned to the forest and began to improve the golem horse. This time it tested much better, and the transport power was enough for Ren and Nornbeer to go with him. Next was the carriage part. Ren already knew the structure of the carriage, so creating it was simple. But the problem here is how to move without shaking. The shaking when hitchhiking last time was really terrible. Ren didn't want to experience it again. To absorb shock, Ren's carriage must have shock absorbers. Thinking about it made Ren rush home and start drawing the designs. From the springs to the shock absorbers, everything was designed by Ren. Surrounding the carriage will be alloys that can withstand gravity so that they do not sink when moving. The wheels of course must have rubber tires as well. After a week of diligent research, Ren's first result was finally presented. She jumped in the car to try it out and the effect was great, it didn't shake at all. Next will be the design of the real interior of the carriage so that people do not discover that this is a fake golem horse, nor let it stand out too much. To carry both Norn and Beru, Ren needs to create another golem chest. Right at this moment, Shin's group ran back to show off to Ren that they had just hunted a horned rabbit. Although horned rabbits are low-level magical beasts, they are quite dangerous for children. It seems like these kids' hunting skills have increased, so it's not necessary for Ren to protect them anymore. Ren took the horned rabbit and started cooking for the kids. This time it would be braised rabbit meat. No need to discuss anything else. Every dish Ren made was extremely delicious. Having completed the carriage, it's time to begin Ren's journey. Before that, you have to return to your hotel room first. Lily has helped Ren a lot, so she had to at least say hello to her. When she met Ren, Lily also had something to discuss with her. Actually, Lily asked the hotel to let her take some time off to return to the capital to visit her family. That's why Lily hopes that Ren can come to the royal capital with her. Of course, in the royal capital there are eggs or milk, but everything Ren needs is there. Ren can't refuse an attractive offer like this. It's not just Lily going alone. With his friend Alice too, Ren is no longer afraid of being alone on this journey. The next morning, Lily and Elisa gathered to let Ren lead them to the carriage. They walked for a while but couldn't see anything, making Elisa a little suspicious and turned to gently remind Lily. If she had to walk from here to the royal capital, she wouldn't mind it. Only after being far away from the city did Ren pull out the carriage from space. This made both Elisa and Lily completely dumbfounded. What kind of strange skill could hold an entire carriage like this? Moreover, the horse and driver looked so strange. Ren didn't hide anything from them. Recognizing that the horse and driver were both golems she created herself, this made Lily and Elisa temporarily unable to accept it. Just like that, their journey from Hyrule City to the royal capital officially began. He is Warsaw and is currently the head of the Adventurer Guild in Hyrule City, or rather, he was captured by an old acquaintance. The location of Hyrule City is quite good, located in the middle of the lands of Earl Mubaro and Baron Nathan. Therefore, this is a strategic location for trade, but those who want to do great things always go to another area. That's why Hyrule was always in a state of shortage of talent, until one day Selena announced that an adventurer had broken the taboo. But these two guys are just a small problem. The big problem lies with the person Ren who came to report the news and the merchant Nickel. In addition to her super huge breasts and strange charm, Ren is also a beast tamer. The two lawbreakers were pushed by Mr. Warsaw to the underground to work there for the rest of their lives. Then there was the matter of Ren defeating 6 orcs. If it was said that the wolf that accompanied Ren did it, he could still accept it. It wasn't until Ren pulled out the orc's corpse that it shocked Warsaw. To be able to store orcs in the inventory, Ren's item box skills must have been extremely high. Just looking at it like that, he was also a B-rank adventurer, but he couldn't see through Ren. She always did things that he couldn't expect. Not just that day, the following days every time Ren appeared, it brought a surprise to Warsaw. When picking herbs, there's an entire mountain full of demonic beast corpses, and you can also defeat the orge that attacks the children. Thanks to Ren's help, the amount of herbs collected became more abundant and circulated on the market, so adventurers no longer worried too much about the injuries they encountered. Then one day when Ren left for the southern village, Neil seemed to be crazy about Ren. Warsaw tried to remind him many times to no avail. When Ren left, someone came to report that a group of ogres had appeared. Warsaw decided to form a team of adventurers to defeat them. The people whom Mr. Warsaw chose were all people with very high development potential. So he thought this subjugation would be easy, but when it came to fighting, many unexpected things happened. The Ogre Lord was so strong that thanks to its influence, the other orgs also became much more aggressive. If only Warsaw was fighting the Ogre Lord, I would be very unlucky, but now you have to fight while also thinking about others. Just when he was about to arrive, the giant wolf that often accompanied Ren saved his life. Reading the letter around his neck, Warsaw knew that Ren had returned. Agreeing to help him with this task, at first he did not believe that Ren could defeat the Orge Lord, but Hyrule lacked talent. Now if everyone died here, the Adventurer Guild would be lost, so Mr. Warsaw had to make a bet. A moment later, the ogres fell one after another, and the Orge Lord could not escape his fate. Up to now, he has officially confirmed that Ren is an extremely special and strong girl, and if she doesn't want to stand out too much, then he won't dig into it at all. After enjoying the food Ren made, he was really addicted. Ren leaving made it difficult for him to eat other things. So Secretary Selena introduced him to the hotel where Ren lived, where the chef tried to copy Ren's recipe. Warsaw went right away, but after taking one bite, Warsaw confirmed that it was too bad and didn't have any flavor of Ren's work in it. Moreover, the unpleasant chef was causing trouble for Solana's sister, forcing her to investigate Ren's recipe, so Warsaw conveniently dealt with this guy. Returning to Ren, she was still taking Lily and Elise to her homemade carriage. Lily is looking forward to this trip. As an adventurer, if Lily can protect Ren this time, she will gain her trust and admiration. So from now on there was no need to worry about food anymore. This was the first time they were able to ride a soft carriage to this extent. The chair is made from a combination of sponge and cotton, and underneath there is also a layer of elastic springs that make the chair extremely soft. Just one chair like that is worth more than a dozen beds at the Lily Hotel. Now let's move. The carriage began to move without Lily and Elise knowing. It wasn't until they looked out the window to check that they confirmed it. It was indeed moving without shaking at all. This carriage was indeed a bit strange. Ren was about to explain but Lily stopped her. What Ren said was too difficult for them to understand. Then Ren started bringing water to offer them. This time orange juice poured into a cup Ren made himself. Optimized to prevent it from spilling, the flavor is off the charts. Pure orange juice is really difficult to drink, but just add a little sugar and ice. A perfect glass of orange juice came out of the oven. After Ren used her ice creation skill, she mastered ice magic without even realizing it. Ren was so prominent that Lily didn't have a chance to show off at all, until Ren didn't know the way to the royal capital. That's when Lily came on the floor. Lily was very professional, just needed to follow the western trail. Along the way, they will stop at the capital Maraba for one night, then continue to follow the northern trail to reach the royal capital. Lily reminded Ren to quickly remember what he said while driving. This made Ren laugh. The golem driver already took care of this. The things Ren brings are so modern that Lily is bored. That night they stopped at the cliff. Ren prepared to cook rice for everyone. Lily really wanted to help, but she didn't understand what the hell Ren was doing. Obviously, being a senior, having to completely depend on Ren made Lily frustrated. Today Ren will treat everyone to groza. For 3 people, she can fry about 30 pieces and that's enough. That was the original plan for the other 2 girls to eat a lot, so they just doubled it to make sure they had enough. As expected, they ate voraciously without stopping. Ren also had to take the time to eat it all. After eating, it was time to set up the tent. Lily also volunteered to do it, which Ren had already prepared. Just turn the carriage over to have a mobile home. The chair will become a bed to serve them. By now, Ms. Lily's self-esteem has officially been broken. Ren smiled brightly and took her inside to sleep, and the next morning the journey began again. Passing through a village, this must have been the village that Mr. Nickel had mentioned. Lily and Elisa volunteered to find an inn, and Ren saw that the square was a bit noisy, so he took the opportunity to ask passers-by what it was about. It turns out that in a cooking competition, the number of eggs sold on the market has decreased recently, so people don't want to sell eggs to people who don't understand it. So Ren decided to participate in this contest. The rules are very simple. Just make dishes that involve eggs and you don't have to use eggs as the main ingredient. This is too easy for her. Because he had to understand eggs to be able to buy them, Ren decided to participate in the contest. Ren went to the competition and started observing. The referee, who was probably the village chief, seemed very upset with the contestants' simple fried egg dish. Next was an omelette. Everything was so ordinary that it made him very angry. At this point, Ren ran over to ask to participate in the contest. The village chief didn't care if she was a merchant or not. But if you want to buy eggs from him, you must participate in a contest, and before that you need to confirm your identity. The village chief asked Ren to take off his hood, so Ren immediately let everyone admire his beautiful face. After thoroughly explaining the rules to Ren, she began her exam. Ren pulled out a box from the space warehouse. This was an onion that the village chief didn't know about. This time Ren will present them onion soup. The basic ingredients are only onions and eggs. The first step is to put the onions in the pan and roast them until fragrant. It's a bit time-consuming, but this is an important step in making onion dishes. While waiting for the onions to be fragrant, Ren took the opportunity to make the soup and pulled out a bottle of onion soup that she had prepared in her bag. After a while, the onion soup was finished and brought it in front of the judge. Having seen Ren taste it just now, the village chief was not worried that it was poisonous. After eating one bite, he had to stand up. This was the first time he had enjoyed such a delicious dish. He couldn't believe that his eggs could create such a delicious dish. Ren certainly passed the test. At this time, Lily and Elisa ran over and saw Ren taking off his hat in front of many people, making Lily angry and scolding Ren. Lily's angry appearance was so cute that Ren couldn't help but blow a kiss to her. Then the village chief called Ren back. This time, only Ren passed the exam, so he also wanted to quickly end the deal with her. He led all 3 of them to his egg warehouse, then became curious about the food that Ren made. He wanted Ren to give him the onions that Ren used in the dish just now. Of course he would pay Ren properly. Ren hesitated for a while, but Ren still refused. Because the dish she just made looked simple, but not everyone could make it. Even the village chief who had her ingredients was useless. Then Ren was curious about inns. There were basically no inns in this village. The merchants who came here to buy eggs mostly slept in their carriages. After returning to look for Ren and not seeing her anywhere, Lily and Elisa rushed to look for her. The village chief took everyone to his egg warehouse. To be honest, it would be better if Ren bought all of these eggs. One thing to remind Ren first is that from now on, the output of eggs sold on the market will decrease, so he wants to earn as much as possible during this time. As for the reason why egg production has decreased, a few months ago a thief broke in here. He left and forgot to close the warehouse door, causing all the snow inside to melt, making preserving the eggs very difficult. Ren used his appraisal skills to choose eggs that were still in good condition. To thank the village chief for selling it to him, Ren used his ice skill to create snow for this cave. So from now on he no longer needs to worry about not being able to preserve eggs. This made the village chief gasp in surprise. How on earth could a normal person create snow with a wave of his hand? Ren stood out so much that Lily had to explain for her. Now Ren is the village chief's benefactor. The snow wren gave him as much more valuable than the 5 moon eggs she bought. That's why he decided to return all the money to Ren. Faced with the village chief's kindness, Ren was also a bit confused. It was really just a small amount of snow she conveniently created. It also saved me a lot of money to buy eggs. I couldn't accept it from him, so Ren gave him the jar of onions. With this, he can recreate the soup she made just now, and can also enhance the flavor of other dishes. Although it takes a bit of time, Ren is sure that the finished dish will be worth the effort they put in. Ren had already calculated everything in her head. If she became friends with the village chief, next time she wouldn't have to pass the exam anymore. This is called pre-investment. After finishing work in this village, Ren, Lily and Elisa continued on their journey. Ren finally had eggs in hand. Today Ren decided to treat the other two to a new dish. It's called katsudo because the two of them seem to like Japanese fried meat quite a bit. This mouth-watering aroma makes Lily and Elisa unable to stand it any longer. Ren also made onion soup with it. He kept praising it as he ate. Now they understand why the village chief agreed to sell eggs to Ren. If this dish is not delicious, then there is no delicious dish in this world. Ren let them eat while I went to get another serving. They thought it was for them, but it wasn't. It belongs to Norn and Beer. They also deserve to enjoy this dish. By the way, Ren gently reminded the two of them. Lately they've been eating very moderately. I'm afraid they'll soon get fat. Hearing this startled both of them, but they couldn't resist the food Ren made. In the end, he still ate a bunch more until he couldn't eat anymore. Now Lily was officially enlightened. It turns out that Ren always eats delicious food like this, which is why Ren's body has grown so horribly. Lily jealously ran over to touch Ren's chest. Few people could understand how jealous a flat-chested person like her looked at Ren. Ren's body was too sensitive and quickly pushed Lily away and discovered something unusual. Quickly turning on the status panel, she received a new skill, this time called Demon Nature, making even women interested in Ren. Suddenly found himself in danger. That night was a sleepless night for Ren. The demonic nature radiating from her body made Ly and Elisa unable to control themselves. The next morning, we all arrived at the military capital of the famous Count Mubaro. Although the city here was big, it was still nothing compared to the royal capital. It looked like they were getting close, but as far as Lily knew, they still had to go another half a day to get past this wall. Having just arrived at the center of the capital, this journey made Lily feel a bit at peace. They didn't encounter any problems. Ren just smirked because she had turned on the overwhelming skill continuously. Chase away monsters whose level is weaker than yourself so they don't dare to come close. Before entering the capital, they needed to discuss a few more things. First, about the inn. Ren needed an inn large enough for Norn and Beer to live. Next was Lily Restaurant. They heard that the chef who cooked for Count Mubaro was very famous, which really made them eager to enjoy his dishes. Because it's a famous restaurant, the cost is a bit expensive, but it doesn't matter because Ren has entertained Lily and Elisa throughout this trip, so they will invite Ren back to a sumptuous meal in the capital. Entering the capital city, the city is much more bustling, and there are also a few stalls selling eggs. But the price was a lot cheaper than in Harula, which made Lily laugh, that's for sure. There are more people here than Harula, the output is more consumed, and it's so expensive that no one wants to buy eggs anymore. This is only partly true, it depends on the type of goods. For example, if high-quality wheat is sold cheaply here, it is very expensive in the royal capital, and eggs here are still much more expensive than in the royal capital. Next is the shipping fee. It will be added directly to the goods. For example, storing sea fish is very difficult to preserve during the journey. Coming from the sea to the royal capital, its price was extremely high, which made Ren's eyes light up. She still has a pile of seafood in the space warehouse. If she were to sell it now, wouldn't she become a millionaire? But if you sell that pile of fish now, it's easy to be mistaken for a businessman. Ren didn't want to get caught up in trouble, so it would be better if he just left. Ren then curiously asked Lily if there was any food here that was cheaper than the royal capital. Lily immediately remembered that if rice was to be transported to the royal capital, it would need to pass through this capital, so the price would be much cheaper. Ren happily ran away, taking advantage of the opportunity to farm a lot of rice to reserve for later consumption. An old man invited Ren to come and buy his rice, thinking that his rice was good rice. With his appraisal skills, Ren immediately knew that this boss had mixed new and old rice together. So he stopped buying and went somewhere else. With his appraisal skills, Ren can always buy good things. After a while, she had piled up the space. With this pile of things, Ren would be able to make countless delicious dishes. Just thinking about it makes Ren's mouth water. Let's go shopping today and the restaurant is open now. There was one problem that made Lily a little worried. It was a high-end restaurant, so she had to dress luxuriously to enter, and clothes were in this area. Lily is afraid that there won't be any outfit suitable for Ren's huge chest size. This made Ren laugh. There was nothing to worry about. She had prepared it in advance, and if she didn't have it, she would just create it herself. Ren gave each person an outfit, and I wore the outfit I rewarded or wore when doing that habit. But it's okay to look at, not too revealing. Stepping into the restaurant and starting to order, as expected of a high-class restaurant, everyone was quiet and did not make any noise. The flight attendant automatically ran to the table for them to order, but at this point Lily didn't care because Ren had attracted too many eyes in the restaurant. So Lily was about to ask them to change her to a private room, but Ren immediately stopped her from coming here to enjoy the food. No matter what they did, the meal was officially on the table. Ren took a bite and immediately recognized it. I didn't expect that there were chefs in this world who could make such delicious dishes, completely different from the buck-toothed chef in Hyrule City. Furthermore, with her rich experience as a chef, Ren doesn't need to wait for the main dish to come out to know what it is. This startled the flight attendant. It was so delicious that it completely conquered Ren's taste buds. After eating a full meal, it was time for them to return to their room to rest. In order to prepare for the trip to the pleasure capital tomorrow, Ren collapsed by the door and smirked. It seems like she needs to try a lot harder when she gets to the royal capital. This world still has many mysteries that Ren doesn't know yet. Ren's trip with Lily Elisa was a very exciting one from the start. This is what happened when their group started to leave the city of Hyrule. At first, Lily thought that as a senior in the adventurer world, on this trip she would be able to teach Ren many things. But when she stepped into the carriage prepared by Ren, she realized she was wrong. Ren was too conscientious and didn't give Lily any chance to show off at all. After walking a long way, the group decided to stop to pick flowers and catch butterflies to refresh their minds. Although Ren's carriage didn't feel any shaking, sitting in one place for a long time still required a bit of exercise to stretch their muscles. Lily shared an interesting story with them. When they were in the royal capital, the young men there said some very stupid things. Like a beautiful girl who never goes to the bathroom. Mentioning this delicate matter makes Ren feel a bit embarrassed. So she changed the subject immediately, thinking about what to make for them today. Lily's opportunity came, so she volunteered to cook rice, very confident in her abilities, but the finished product was not worthy at all when the rice was still raw. This made Lily really sad. Seeing this, Ren quickly ran out to pick up Lily's rice tray. There are still many other things that this rice can do. Ren quickly prepared some chicken drumstick mushrooms and onions. Add a little chicken sauce, a little butter, a little wine, a little pepper, and you're done. A new dish was placed in front of Lily and Elisa, making them extremely surprised that Lily's tray of raw rice could turn into this dish. After trying just one bite, both of them completely melted. This really touched Lily's self-esteem. Since meeting Ren, she has never seen Ren fail at anything. Is it possible that Ren is somehow divine? Ren immediately laughed to tell them that she had to fail sometimes, but they just didn't know it. If Lily and Elisa don't know, it's just that Ren is trying to hide her shortcomings. Lily realized her mistake and apologized for thinking Ren was cheating on them. This made Ren laugh at that cuteness, patting Lily's head for a little encouragement, and they became close again. And so the group's journey to the royal capital continued. Now I remember how much fun it was when we first arrived in Mubaro City, when the whole group got to wear beautiful dresses. Enjoying high-class dishes in restaurants, but why is it like this now? Ren sat next to a pile of corpses. Back to about an hour ago, the group was leisurely traveling on a horse-drawn carriage when they discovered a log blocking the road. Right after that, a group of robbers appeared, from both the front and the back. These guys are so brave in broad daylight, it seems like it's not just that. Ren used his sensing skills to discover that there were 2 more men hiding on the left and right tree. A total of 8 robbers saw Ren suddenly stop the car, causing Lily and Elisa to pry their heads in confusion to take a look. Ren chased them back into the car immediately. The robbers saw that they were all girls and laughed out loud. This was so easy. Not only can you rob a bunch of good goods, you can also sell these beautiful girls. Ren reminded the other 2 to stay in the car so he could deal with them, but Lily and Elisa ignored Ren and rushed out of the car. It was time to show Ren their good side. Seeing the 2 of them ready to fight made the bandits laugh. Not only beautiful but also brave, so you should play with them a little. Before selling, Lily began to fight, using magic skills to create a layer of protection. With this thing, it will protect both Ren and the carriage. The archer standing from the tree shoots countless arrows but cannot penetrate this magic layer. It's only now that the robbers have escaped there's a magician on the other side who can't play around anymore and wants to end this quickly. But Elisa didn't give them time to prepare anything and rushed out of the three-way barrier to kill a robber. This made Ren startled and surprised. Elisa's footsteps were not ordinary at all. These two people were extremely strong. The archer hid in the tree, waiting for the opportunity, aiming at anyone who dared to stick their head out of the barrier. Right now Norn appeared behind them, herding them like ducks. Ren just stood there watching. Lily's strategy was that she would protect and Elisa would be the one to attack. They cooperated very well, but there were too many enemies. I didn't know if Elisa was okay. Right now, there was a robber trying to attack Elisa. Lily noticed and quickly shouted to remind her, but it seemed too late. So Ren quickly set up an air bullet, shooting straight at the robber's face. The thing she just used was just a bullet made from rubber, so she was pretty sure the robber wouldn't die. The robbers were completely overwhelmed by them and had no chance to fight back, so they had to surrender. At first they thought the car was full of women, so they attacked. Who would have thought they would be this strong? Ren turned around and reminded Lily and Elisa to spare them. These people are weak and can't do anything to them, so just report it to the guild and let them go. They completely defeated the bandits, but Ren was not happy at all. Since this was the first time Ren had to fight to the death with a human, this made Lily run over to encourage Ren. This is something they did themselves, because from the beginning, when they dared to target them, they had to foresee that there would come a time when they would be defeated like this. Next was the matter of disposing of the bodies. Lily was pretty sure these guys were criminals with a bounty on them, so just throw them at the bridge and someone would discover them. After that, they all got in the car to continue moving. After this incident, Ren acquired mental resistance skills to help her stay calm in all situations. But that only works on those who target her, but if she loses someone important to her now, Ren will go crazy. After confronting the bandits, Ren's group's journey continued, one more day until they reached the area near the royal capital. Rumor has it that a normal carriage from Count Mubaro's area to the royal capital takes up to a week, but Ren's carriage is of a high-class quality, so it moves very quickly. That's also because Ren slowed down a lot to enjoy the trip, otherwise it would have been just a minute. There was no need to rush. Ren stopped to join the group to enjoy lunch first. Parking the horse-drawn carriage on the side of the road so that the dining table is outside, you can sit and enjoy the breeze while eating. It's truly a worldly delicacy, nothing more. While eating Lily and Elisa, she complimented how delicious it was. She didn't know how many more recipes Ren had, but each time she offered them a different dish. This made Ren's nose wide open. It must be said that she still had a lot of formula left, so she could slowly enjoy it. Tell me a little more. That this morning Ren taught her to prepare bread very early, because she was excited by the amazing bread at Mubaro restaurant. Because he has to cook often, Ren's cooking skills have reached level 10. Ren then became curious with Lily, to see if there was any place to stop in the royal capital. It doesn't need much, just enough for both Norn and Beru to rest. Lily suggested going to her house immediately. If Ren was needed to rent a room in the royal capital, he would truly consider Ren an outsider. Furthermore, Lily had promised to teach Ren magic, so staying at her house made the most sense. After being invited like that, Ren didn't have to be polite anymore. In addition, Lily was a bit curious about Ren's schedule, so maybe he just went to the royal capital to buy things and then immediately left. At first Ren had only planned that, but now he needed to stay and learn magic from Lily. Just have to learn more about alchemy like Lily had instructed Ren before. If you want to learn it, you need to visit a master. A collection of alchemy formulas sold at the alchemy guild. But it seemed like they didn't sell to people who didn't know anything about alchemy, so Ren then asked Lily if there was a place to rent a smithy. Ren wanted to practice his blacksmithing skills a little more, so Elisa immediately volunteered. Her family had been swordsmen for 3 generations, so they often visited the blacksmith shop. As long as Elisa opened her mouth, it would probably be fine. Regarding the rental time, Ren needs up to half a year. Money is not an issue. Ren's goal is to practice until his blacksmithing skill reaches level 10. Next, with a little of her knowledge, Elisa explains to Ren. Basic rules in sword making. First of all, magic swords are swords that have magic fixed in them, stronger than normal swords. Next is the sword with properties assigned to the basic elements within it. Both types of swords are very powerful if the user can fully utilize the magic power within them. Next is the magic sword. This type of sword not only has assigned attributes, but also has its own skills. To create it, alchemy techniques are needed. Next is the holy sword given power from the Lord, the dark sword given power by the power of darkness. Finally, this divine sword is only recorded in books, but no one has ever encountered it. After hearing the explanation, Ren took the magic sword as his target, then they all entered the city together. It was completely different from what Ren thought. When every wall there was a different residential area living. This place is called the first urban area, where commoners live. Next is the second urban area for the upper class, Lily's house in this area. And finally, the first city is the place where kings and lords govern the people. Then Lily led Ren to his house. Looking at the huge villa made Ren's eyes cross, until now Lily officially introduced it. My family is a standard baron who can only succeed from within the family. A commoner can never ascend to this position. Elisa is also the child of the baron's family right next to Lily's family. Even though the family is so rich, Lily and Elisa still have to go out to work. Simply because they are girls, their families all have eldest sons destined to succeed them. Already. Sooner or later, Lily and Elisa will be married off. So before that happens, they want to enjoy more. Elisa said goodbye to them and ran home, while Lily took Ren inside to greet her mother. A week has passed since Ren came to stay at Lily's house in the royal capital, enjoying delicious free meals every day. In the first 3 days of arriving here, Ren spent time shopping for more ingredients as originally planned. Not only in the second city, Ren also went outside the third city to look at things. Thanks to that, Ren received a lot of good things. Since returning to Lily's house, every day Ren has been fiercely attacked by Lily's mother, saying that Ren is too cute and she wants to take her as her own child. The person sitting next to Lily is her mother, looking too young, just a lady in her 20s named Miriam. After Ren treated mother and daughter to the cakes she made, she was even more loved by Mrs. Miriam. There are many rules in a baron's house, most of which are decided by the eldest son of the house. As a good mother, Miriam always wants her children to live the life they want. At first, when Lily was an adventurer, she was worried that she would be in danger in the dungeon. But now it's over. Look at Lily's mature appearance when she comes back to see her. Miriam is more proud of this daughter than ever. In general, Ren is loved more than ever by Mrs. Miriam. She is happy about this because deep inside the body of a lovely girl, there's still the memory of an uncle, and this Marima lady is Ren's perfect type. After the tea party ended, Lily's magic training lesson came. Lily's teaching style was very easy to understand, so Ren quickly learned basic attribute magic. Next is knowledge about the magic system. Magic also has a hierarchy. From easy to difficult, Lily will explain to Ren the easy first. If Ren's attribute is fire, he will create fireballs from his hand, and if he is water, he will create water depending on the strength of Ren's magic power. The power of these skills will also increase, followed by magic arrows, with long range but very low power. Next is the protective shield. If Ren's attribute is fire, he will create a layer of fire shield. Next is the magic spear that attacks at short range but has extremely high damage. In short, attack magic has range and power that are inversely proportional to each other. The farther away, the weaker the damage. Finally, wall magic is both an attack magic and a protective magic. At the end of the next magical attack, Lily was about to explain the barrier magic when Ren stopped her. She knew this, making Lily's sister gasp in surprise. It took Lily a lot of time to learn it, so how the hell can Ren copy it just by looking at it? In contrast to barrier magic, for Ren, recovery magic was a bit difficult for her. Ren doesn't have any talent for attack magic, so she has to use her imagination to make up for it. For example, when attacked by a demonic beast, Ren will use creative magic to create a mountain of earth surrounding the demonic beast. Then use fire magic to roast it to death. The tutorial ends here. Now what Ren needs to do is feel magic power. With this, Ren will save money when using skills. This is exactly what Ren needs because every time Ren uses creative magic, she consumes a lot of energy. It's just training, but in just one day Ren learned everything, which made Lily completely devastated. That night, Mariam ran to tell Ren that there was a notice from the Adventurer Guild, opening the door to the room just as Ren was changing clothes. Ren's body was so perfect that Mrs. Miriam could not control herself and pushed Ren onto the bed. The capital's second Adventurer Guild, Ren came here on Miriam's advice. It was large and crowded, making Ren feel a bit breathless. Ren discovered there was a cat-eared girl. Because this is the royal capital, many people flock to it, so many beast-eared races also appear here. Something that Harula never had. Ren then began to wonder with Lily which mission he should accept. Ren is rank E and Lily and Elisa are rank D. If that's the case, then Ren thinks she should take on a low-level mission that's suitable for her. Ren plans to go on a collection mission, and Lily and Elisa will go on a foraging mission. If Lily immediately refuses the collection mission, she only needs to have the title of adventurer to receive it. It doesn't matter the level, so Lily and Elisa will also accept this mission with Ren. Furthermore, collectors are often attacked by magical beasts. If Ren is attacked by a magical beast, they will protect her. Lily then took Ren to the mission board, showing her a safe forest where she and Elisa had gone before. Because those two people knew this area better, Ren let them decide everything on their own. As for the issue of whether it was dangerous or not, Ren had Norn by his side, so he didn't have to worry about anything. After receiving the mission, we all went to the library. Lily took a book specializing in recording herbs to show Ren. This type was quite rare, so they had to go deep into the forest to find it. Of course there will be a few goblins here and there, but there is almost no danger to them. After completing the simple assignment, we all marched out together. Elisa went first to explore the area for them, so Ren laughed and reminded Elisa to come back. With her sensing skills, Ren is quite confident, nothing can escape her sight. About a tree east of the area they are standing in, there are two orcs. If they feel bothered, they can take a detour. But Elisa wanted to eat orc meat. Lily absolutely did not agree to let them fight because Ren's safety was the safest. The group pulled together near a waterfall. Rare herbs often grow in wet areas like this. Because they had gone before, Lily and Elisa were very familiar with it. For those who don't know, this is a very troublesome task. For those who are very familiar, this is a great task, just need to go find it and return to exchange money. Ren used his appraisal skill on the rare herb and amplified his search skill. Indeed, this herb can only be found depending on the place, so Ren collected it all in his space storage. Lily then started setting up a tent inside the barrier. If they set out to return to the capital now, it would be late at night by the time they arrived, so they would camp here for the night. Norn and Beru were quite free, so Ren let them go hunting. When he returned a while later, Ren didn't see that they had brought anything back. They thought the hunt was a failure, but the two of them howled and the monster's corpse suddenly appeared. This startled Ren. How the hell did the two of them learn the item box skill? As for Lily and Elisa, their faces turned pale. Looking at the corpse of the monster Norn brought back, this was a rank B monster. It would take a whole party of sea-level adventurers to defeat it, but this wolf could be brought back so easily. Ren gathered all the ingredients into the space warehouse. With this she would make an extremely delicious dish. Being outdoors like this was a bit inconvenient, so Ren pulled out his space house. Ren took Lily and Elisa into his house and instructed them to take off their shoes and put them on the shelf. Then he took them to the guest room. Ren had already set up 2 beds, so there was enough room for the two of them. Looking at the clean, beautiful room and the soft bed surprised Lily even more. Then they were curious to see where Ren's room was, but Ren insisted on not letting the two of them see. It was a secret because if the two of them saw the strange things in her room, it would be over. It's the first time a distinguished guest comes to your house, and it's not okay to disappoint them. Ren decided to treat them to the best meal ever tonight. Using ingredients that Norn just brought home, create a delicious chicken rice dish. Eating it made Lily and Elisa feel like they were hallucinating, unable to stop chopping. The meat of this magical beast was so amazing. At this rate, I can't hunt just one, so I'll have to ask the Norns to hunt them tomorrow. Lily and Elisa ate their fill and then lay down to enjoy themselves, and Ren had already prepared a bath for them. So they dragged Ren to take a bath with them. After all, they were all girls, so there was nothing to be shy about. When Ren took off his cloak, Lily and Elisa were surprised. Ren's body was truly so developed. Plus the design of that underwear is so beautiful, I wonder where Ren bought it. This made Ren laugh and let them know that this was something he made himself, and if he had the opportunity, he would give them a set. Then Ren jumped into the bathtub first, of course having to scrub his body with homemade soap. This floating white foam made Lily and Elisa even more curious, thinking that this was the secret that helped Ren's body always smell so good. Ren called everyone to take a bath together, and the three of them washed each other's backs. This is a rare opportunity for Ren to see both of their bodies with his own eyes. It's really good, it's absolutely amazing. Because shower gel in this world is of very poor quality, Ren had to create this shower gel himself, which was also the first time Lily and Elisa experienced it. They complimented him endlessly, so they knew Ren's secret to always floating. Surely they also know that it's not often they get to experience this, so everyone seems very satisfied and enjoying it. The more he looked at it, the more lustful Ren became, so a thought flashed through Ren's head. Tonight she can do that habit again. Going deep into the forest to pick herbs, and being able to eat delicious food and take a hot bath like this made Lily feel like she was going on a trip rather than on a mission. Besides, you can sleep without having to be careful. After bathing, Lily and Elisa lie down on the bed and enjoy. Looking at the two of them like this made Ren feel lustful again, so he immediately ran back to his room to start doing it. She's had to look at it for a month now. This will be an explosive night for Ren. Surely someone will condemn this action of Ren. But look closely at her satisfied face when she sleeps. How many people have such a good night's sleep? The next morning we all woke up very early and Ren had already prepared food for us. After eating the delicious food, Ren looked very satisfied. Ren's facial skin is always plump, making Lily and Elisa very confused, even though their skin is equally great. But looking at Ren, there was still something very different from them, which made Ren laugh and think that they must have eaten the eggs of that monster chicken yesterday so they could be so shiny. Lily was startled. Did they really get to eat it? The eggs of that monster bird were not sold on the market, yet they had the opportunity to eat it like this. It's truly unique. Ren has to go through this too often. For a D-rank adventurer like you to carry the egg of a B-level magical beast, something will inevitably happen, so I'll just give it some food right away to make it happy. Eating such delicious food without exercising is such a waste of calories. Just in time, a group of orcs passed by, so Elisa rushed up to kill them while fighting and chatting with Ren's group. In fact, Ren still had 5 more monster chicken eggs, and she began to wonder what to cook them for. During this trip, Ren revealed all his skills to Lily and Elisa. Being able to store an entire building and a carriage as big as that made Lily think that Ren's item box skill must be level 10. In fact, it was much more terrible, but Ren trusted the right person. Lily and Elisa agreed not to reveal this matter to the public. So Ren didn't need to worry anymore and ran to hug them, then was curious. Elisa didn't need to look to know that a group of orcs were passing by. She must have learned the sensing skill. Elisa opened her status panel to see. Indeed, Elisa turned curious and asked Lily to show her the status board. It seemed that Lily's magic skills had become much stronger. Lily was a bit confused and opened the status panel. Seeing her own parameters increase so much made Lily stunned. They all thought this was thanks to Ren. But when Ren refused, she didn't do anything. After finishing their work here, they left together. It was already noon when they got back to the Adventurer Guild. Because it was in the royal capital, the guild was always full of people. Ren took out his herbs to hand over the task. A few days later in the craft town, Ren revealed before going to the royal capital that he wanted to rent a smithy. Elisa led the group to move the smithy she was preparing to introduce, which belonged to a very skilled blacksmith. Stepping into the blacksmith shop, Ren immediately noticed the swords. Taking the sword down, Ren checked its quality. This sword is just the store's mass-produced sword, but its quality is not bad at all. The owner of the smithy ran out to meet Elisa. Elisa wanted to ask him to lend Ren the smithy. Looking at Ren's small body made him a bit doubtful. The smithy was not the place to play. Could a small body like that be able to hold a hammer? Ren is sure he can do it, but the rental period is quite long. Money is not a problem for the boss. He just didn't want to hire someone with no skills, so Ren immediately pulled out a sword he made himself. The boss tinkered with the sword without knowing how it was made. To make it easier for him to understand, Ren took out another blank for him to examine. At first glance, it looks like aluminum billet, but if you look closer, it looks like iron, but the latch is still neither of those two things. But to be able to create this, Ren's skills must not be ordinary. The owner decided to rent the smithy to Ren. The price was 1 small gold coin per day. As for the raw materials at the factory, he would take care of all of them. Ren was very grateful and gave him his ingot. With this, he would be able to improve his skills, and in return, he would let Ren stay at his smithy. Every time he appreciates others like this, Ren receives something in return. It's truly giving to receive. Ren will stay at the smithy in the royal capital for the next half a year, and Lily and Elisa's vacation has ended. It's time for them to return to Hyrule City. Ren was about to send them off to the carriage station, but instead they sent them back to the smithy. It was truly pampering her too much. Entering the blacksmith workshop, Boss Arnaud was already waiting for Ren at the counter. He was worried that Ren wouldn't come. It was time for Ren to realize his dream. The boss led Ren deep into his blacksmith workshop and began to introduce the basics to Ren. He had also prepared a spare forging room for Ren, and he had already made the fire in advance. After introducing the blacksmith workshop and the living area, from the dormitory to the dining room, the boss took Ren to each place. Go to the restroom and let Ren take a look at the experiment, true to the meaning of a real dormitory, without a closet. The bedclothes were a bit stiff, so Ren planned to change them later. For now, let's focus on forging first. Ren immediately changed into clothes suitable for forging status and then ran to the blacksmith workshop. The reason why the boss was so interested in Ren was simply that last night he observed Ren's refined iron ingot. But he still couldn't understand how Ren created it. Only now did he realize that this world is so vast because of the things he did for Ren. It's simply respect for someone who can refine iron that even he can't do. The boss handed the key back to Ren and told him a few more things before leaving. Ren's doors are also heavy, Ren certainly can't lift them. So I immediately pulled the blacksmithing room back and started creating something. Looking at the pile of blacksmithing tools, a few vials of energy-boosting potions came out from the space warehouse, strengthening his body's condition so he could swing the hammer loudly and begin work. Ren didn't really understand the steps of forging. Her ingredients were full, so Ren had to test it a few times before throwing the iron ingot into the furnace. After it was hot, he pulled it out and started beating it. After 3 hours of beating with all his hands, Ren finally created a blade. It takes 3 hours to create a blade, no matter how creative magic is. Just one call and the pile of materials will automatically change shape. But you came here to practice, so you have to try harder. Ren turned on her status panel to check. As expected, her 3 hours of hard work were not in vain as Ren's blacksmithing skill had also increased in level. Next, she used the appraisal skill on the blade that Ren had just created. The quality was also considered good, but that wasn't enough for Ren, so she continued to pound more, and in a blink of an eye, Ren's forging level was reached. Already reached level 4. It was true that he was hacked, but his clothes were soaked with sweat. Ren stopped work and took a shower. He was clean and fragrant and then it was time to go eat. Sitting at the dining table, Ren kept feeling like someone was staring at him, so the boss's secretary laughed and explained to Ren. The guy staring at Ren from behind is also an apprentice and he hasn't even touched a sword yet. Looking at Ren being so young and already being touched, he must be very jealous of her. After a good night's sleep, the next morning Ren continued his work. Seeing the hostess preparing meals for everyone, Ren happily ran to help her. Thanks to Ren's help, every dish was praised as delicious. This morning Ren was determined to finish yesterday's sword, having completed the blade and now it was time to sharpen it. Then make the sword sheath and put the sword in the sheath. Finally the first sword is completed. Next, Ren will try to create other swords. One morning, he broke his entire hand, causing Ren to breathe heavily and have to run outside to relax. At this time, the boss passed by and was curious to see Ren's sword. This brilliant quality surprised the boss. There was still one unfinished blade left, so Ren took the boss to see it. Everything was good, making the apprentice even more jealous of Ren. At the end of today, Ren went to the restaurant. Ren is now much more loved by everyone. Then the landlady began to be curious about the cold drink that Ren had just drank. Ren laughed that it was just ice she created from ice magic. Everyone was startled by magic. The apprentice refused to believe it, so Ren Mu showed him immediately. The entire summer room in the blacksmith's workshop became cool with Ren's ice magic. Until the previous chapter, Ren broke up with Lily and Elisa started her job at the blacksmith shop. Even though it was my first time forging, everything went very well. I got up in the morning to help my boss cook. After that, he beat the sword for a whole day, then ate, bathed, and went to sleep. Once a week, Ren would take Norn and Beer to hunt to find cooking ingredients and herbs. While doing so, Ren's gathering skill increased to level 10. That morning the owner looked very upset, so Ren ran over to ask and it turned out to be the store that delivered bread to the blacksmith shop. She's always making mistakes because the bread doesn't have enough food for everyone. She's wondering what she should make to make up for everyone's food. Ren began to ponder that because this factory was a big family, every time she cooked, the owner would have to think a lot about what to make. So Ren asked the landlady to let him prepare the soup. Without bread, he could make it as long as he had flour. Ren and the landlady quickly kneaded the flour into shape and threw it all into the soup pot. Just add a little more seasoning and the dish is complete, enough for everyone to enjoy. Sure enough, the lack of bread made everyone talk loudly, but that was until the lady brought out Ren's soup. It was so delicious that everyone couldn't stop praising it. 2 weeks later, Ren's blacksmithing skill had reached level 4. Sometime later, Boss Arnaud asked Ren to forge the sword while letting the apprentices stand behind and observe. With a very good condition, instead of paying money, they would pay Ren a lot of embryos, so Ren agreed to just watch anyway. Ren started her work and in one fell swoop she created a blade that made everyone's eyes go cross-eyed. Boss Arnaud started his lesson. Age has nothing to do with talent, so for now, just stay here and concentrate and observe how Ren works. Ren could only stand there laughing. It turned out he was using her to provoke his disciples. Everyone admired Ren, but only Edo still glared at Ren. Another 2 weeks passed and Ren started making other types of weapons, like axes and spears or hammers, but making just swords was boring. After getting bored with weapons, Ren made other things. This time it would be a pasta-making machine. Next Ren tried creating a pocket watch, but with the components of a modern watch. It's too detailed and complicated, so in the end Ren still falls into a deadlock. It's a useless waste of time. I'll ignore the watch and focus on making a set of kitchen utensils. The next morning when he went to the kitchen, Ren once again saw the hostess wondering about something. The lady's cooking is very good, so every morning Ren looks forward to eating her food, but every time he sees her wondering like this, something must have happened. Now is the time for the machines Ren created to take effect. Ren immediately pulled out the noodle-making machine, each person doing a job. The maid grinds the meat, the mistress kneads the dough. Ren focuses on making the highest quality noodles, while at the same time making a pot of soup. Because there were so many people eating, Ren showed the owner the recipe, and in a blink of an eye the spaghetti was ready. After this wonderful meal, the owner stopped Ren and wanted to rent Ren's noodle maker and meat grinder. Before that, the boss was a bit curious if Ren had patented those things. The boss chased Ren to the merchant guild to register the copyright immediately. Of course, because Ren didn't know anything, the boss came with her. Here, Ren had to redraw the designs of the other two machines so that the merchant guild could remanufacture them. I don't know what the purpose is, but with this, Ren will have more income every month. The non-combatant naturally ended up working at the blacksmith's workshop. Ren was now a member of the merchant guild. All the items that Ren has created herself so far have helped her register copyrights and earn a decent amount of money. That's right, because in this world, specialized equipment to create noodles is still a mystery, so the machine that Ren brought to register is a breakthrough in the technology industry in this world. But Ren felt a bit guilty, she only copied things from the previous world. So it's not her invention. By the way, the merchant guild's registration fee is quite expensive. The lowest is 1 gold coin, the highest is 10 coins, in Ren's case, 5 coins were collected. In return, when Ren provides them with the design, they will provide her with a savings book to transfer money to those who buy Ren's copyright. Revealing so much information like this made Ren a bit worried, afraid that the Fat Count would find out she was still alive and chase her. From now on, Ren must prepare to run away at any time. After registering his copyright, Ren will walk to relieve himself a bit. Right now, a girl came to talk to Ren. Because she saw Ren coming from the direction of the smithy, she was pretty sure Ren was also a blacksmith. Introducing myself as Trista, currently looking for a contract partner. When it comes to this issue, there is one rule. Newbie adventurers will cooperate with new blacksmiths like themselves, increasing their levels together. For example, new adventurers do not have money to buy equipment, so they need to sign a contract with a blacksmith to receive the necessary items for free. The blacksmith will know where his items create problems when adventurers use them. Of course there are limitations. New adventurers can die at any time, and gathering materials is not easy at all. If the items the blacksmiths provided were of poor quality, it would be easy for the adventurer to die, so this was a very unlucky matter. Ren laughed. She knew who Trista was. She was also a child living in the same orphanage as Ren. But it had been a long time since they had seen each other, so Trista suddenly didn't recognize Ren. To talk a little deeper, Trista is a good person, always protecting the vulnerable children in the orphanage and is Ren's first friend. Trista was a bit surprised when Ren took off his hood. She burst into tears. Came to hug Ren. Trista had heard the news before and thought Ren was dead, but luckily Ren was still alive. Waiting until Trista was calmer, they shared each other's recent lives. As for the frog-faced merchant, Trista heard rumors that he was dead. This made Ren happy, so she didn't have to run away anymore. Currently, Trista is a new adventurer, so she is only on a mission to collect medicinal herbs. However, this was a bit difficult and she couldn't tell them apart. It wasn't until Ren mentioned the guild's free resource room that Trista learned about it. Ren reminded her to go there to read more things. At this moment, Trista's stomach was churning. Ren did not hesitate to bring out food to offer to Trista. One full meal before Trista returned, Ren even gave her the sword he created himself. There were so many things that needed to be said. But their brief meeting only lasted so far, promising each other that they would meet again. Exchanging new things in life, just a small meeting. But Ren clearly feels that something is ending to open up her next life. The very next day, Trista ran to Ren's blacksmith workshop to show Ren the sword that Ren gave him. There was something very strange about the sword, and the meal was so delicious that everyone had to exclaim in praise. What's so strange about the sword? Why would Ren think there was something wrong with it? It was obvious that she had crafted it very meticulously. That day, as soon as Ren guided her to the guild, Trista immediately went to the library there. But because she didn't know how to read books, she only had to ask the association staff to explain it for her, the next day to test her memory. Trista immediately went into the forest to start searching for herbs, but until now, Trista has not found any herbs mentioned in the book. But thanks to her diligence, Trista found something else. Usually, Trisra can only earn about 5 small silver coins. But that day her income reached 7 silver coins, the highest amount of money Trista could ever earn. So the kids don't have to worry about renting a small room anymore. The next problem is that Trista encountered goblins in the forest. The two sides fought each other, but when Trista swung her sword from above, the goblin raised his sword to block, but it was still split in half. Its sharpness has reached its peak and makes Trista very surprised. This thing is really made by Ren. Having said that, Trista feels that she is not qualified to use this sword. This made Ren laugh. There was no need to worry about anything as long as Trista paid attention and practiced more. Then Ren pulled out a set of armor from his space bag. At first, Ren only made it to fit Trista's body. It fits exactly like it was printed, so it can be used for a fairly long period of time. Only now did Trista notice that Ren didn't seem to be growing taller at all. It seemed like the nutrients were feeding all of her huge breasts. Trista has received too much from Ren, and now she brings back this armor as well. No matter what, everyone was going to talk about it. Ren didn't care much and told Trista to just let them know that this was something she did herself. Next was the issue of studying at the library. The first time Trista went there, she had to ask a reader for help, so she felt a bit embarrassed and didn't dare go there anymore. Because Trista is Ren's best friend, she had to help. Ren did not hesitate to spend some time teaching Trista how to read and write. Ren knows how to read and write. This makes Trista even more surprised, which is true because since Ren and Trista lived together in an orphanage, how the hell does anyone know how to read? The mention made Ren startled and hastily made up an excuse to get over it. She had only learned to read about a year ago. Of course, you don't have to learn anything. Just remember the memories of your previous life and you're done.